She's been working for the same company ever since high school. Friends of Hickman, the job was given to her. The child that she had for Hickman, now her name's Marjorie Anstey, ever since high school. She's worked for the Hickman family as a service writer at Hickman Motors in Salt Pond, Buren. When that child, Marjorie, was in high school, she'd gotten pregnant as a child. At that time, abortions were illegal. It was 1983 or 84. My sister Joan uh, took her to Montreal for an abortion. The abortion was arranged, the flights were arranged, spending money was given to her and Marjorie for while they were in Montreal. They left Newfoundland. She went to Montreal. Marjorie, the child my sister Suzanne had for Hickman, had the abortion, went on their shopping spree, came back home. My sister Joan promptly left Fortune, moved to Ontario, and she's been there ever since, financially independent. And when she was on the way up to get the abortion with Marjorie, I was home from working away, and the phone rang. She was in the All Science, my sister Joan, with a kidney stone. And I said, what's the problem? And she said, the nurses here are really giving me a hard time. Can you come and try and help me out? And I said, sure. So I go by, and I'm a chronic kidney stone maker as well. They give you quite a few painkillers. You can get shots of morphine, shots of Demerol. And Joan was pretty well shot full of things with painkillers when I got to the All Science. I really don't know if the nurses were mistreating her or not. But I spoke to the nurses and asked them if they would try and help her out and see she was comfortable. And she said, yeah. So I said, Joan, what's going on? What are you doing here? And she said, well, I'm here with Marjorie. And I said, I don't understand. Marjorie, what's going on with Marjorie? And she said, well, we're on our way to Montreal to get an abortion for Marjorie. And I ended up in here with a attack of kidney stones. And I said, Joan, how did you get to bring Marjorie for an abortion? Who arranged this? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you don't know anyone in Montreal, Joan. You don't have the money for this. So someone else did this, didn't they? And she said, yeah, a friend of the family. And I said, Joan, this is Hickman again, isn't it? And she said, well, I'm not supposed to say. And I said, yeah, it's Hickman again. Who's got this kind of money and who knows how to set this up? And she said, well, we got some money for a shopping spree too if I can get out of here. And I said, Joan, where's Marjorie? And she said, I can't tell you where Marjorie's staying. She don't want to see you, and she don't want you to know that she's pregnant. And I said, okay, Joan, all right. So apparently the following day or 2 days later, Joan got out of the All Science. They went to Montreal. While she was there, she had another attack of the kidney stones, had to go to apparently some doctor or drugstore in Montreal and have a prescription filled there. And they did their shopping. She came back, immediately went to her boyfriend's place where she lived with her boyfriend and his mom in their home, and had quite a nice situation. Left her boyfriend, left a small beauty salon business she had there, and promptly moved to Toronto herself, where she still lives. In 2000, my wife and our son and his little friend drove from Newfoundland to Toronto because my sister Joan called me and said, Byron, I'm getting married. And I said, wow, that's great. So she said, would you give me away? And I said, Lord, Joan, I'm right in the middle of this court thing, and I don't have any money, and I don't know. I'll have to check and see. So my wife, being very hard to get along with, said, look, we owe Danny Williams' law office some money. We have some bills to pay, and you need a change now. So we remortgaged our house, paid our bills, and got enough money so we could drive to Toronto, and I could give my sister away at her wedding. My wife had points that she'd collected from work and got a hotel room with them in Toronto, and we stayed there. We went to my sister's wedding, and I gave Joan away at her wedding in 2000. Since then, basically that's the last contact that I've had with Joan, with other than one experience where she came to a court case that we were forced to go to in Grand Bank. One mentally delayed fellow was charged with molesting her and myself. We'd asked many times of the Crown prosecutors, the RCMP, and the Justice Department to have the court moved from Grand Bank because of the situation there. And no one would even entertain moving the court. In the preliminary inquiry, the man who did this to both of us, my sister was sitting on the stand and was asked by the lawyer if she could remember what clothes she was wearing the day that the defendant was supposedly had taken her virginity. And she said, "No, sir, I can't remember." He stood up next to his lawyer and said, "I remember. She was wearing a red sweater and gray slacks." Well, I felt like knocking him over, but I didn't. And he promptly, on the advice of his lawyer, sat down, said nothing more, and in the town of Grand Bank proceeded to defend himself by saying he was not guilty, with a jury from that town, Grand Bank, where all this happened to my family and I. We were forced to go to court in that town with a jury from that town in the T. Alec Hickman building, the name of the courthouse in that town. And I don't have to tell you, even after what the defendant said in the inquiry, it was never brought up in court, and he was found not guilty. That was to send me a message that you can't even get a mentally delayed man convicted. You may as well forget the Chief Justice and ex-Justice Minister. I don't take messages that easily. I guess I'm slow. But I'm telling the truth here. I've been telling the truth all my life. I'm not mentally defective. What I am saying is correct. It's the truth. A DNA test will prove that. I have enough credit left to pay for that test. It'll cost no one. It would give credibility back to Mr. Hickman if he deserves it. And it would also give credibility back to the courts and the justice system. I'm asking that someone would do a DNA test here with T. Alec Hickman, my sister Suzanne, and at least one child, Marjorie Anstey, and if possible, a second child, Byron Prior. And from the people of Grand Bank and the people in this province who know both these children, Marjorie Anstey and Byron Prior are twins, to look at them. They could possibly be both Alec Hickman's kids. At that time, when she had the second child, Aaron, Mr. Hickman, Bill Matthews, and his friends were all involved sexually with my sister. But he looks more like his sister Marjorie than any way possible that he's someone else's. They could be twins.